premiere in a couple of hours. For everyone listening at home, could you just tell me a little bit about the movie?
Sure. It's about two estranged brothers who reunite to close down their missing father's video store, and while they're there, they end up finding a VCR board game that may or may not have something to do with his disappearance. So,
when I read the synopsis, it sounded a little bit like Jumanji with a bit more horror. Do you think that's fair?
It's pretty accurate. That was how I pitched it to just about every financier we had. So.
Great. So where'd the inspiration come for it, apart from Jumanji?
My co-writer Steve Scarlatta had the idea of using a VCR board game that opened another dimension, and I'd long wanted to do, an 80s adventure-themed horror film because there's very few of them, and it's one of my favorite subgenres. So, a VCR board game was basically the perfect engine for that, and it was also the video store and all these other things were able to kind of pull from a lot of nostalgic references I really like.
So how do you feel like it fits into the horror pantheon? Because obviously there's so much going on right now and there's so much choice. How do you think it fits in? What makes it different?
That's a good question. I think ultimately the audience they're really the ones who ultimately decide that, because once you've made it and it's gotten out, the crowds kind of tell you what it will become, and at a certain point, like once it's been distributed, it's no longer my movie. So I honestly, I really don't have an opinion on it. It's I'm just sort of waiting for everyone to tell me what they think of it, and at that point, it's theirs.
How'd you go by casting it? Because I know you've got Graham Skipper from The Mind's Eye.
Yeah, I do too. Basically, all the three lead roles for Graham, Chase Williamson, who plays his brother John, and Bria Grant, who played Margot, his girlfriend. I've been friends with all of them for years, and basically, tailored each of these characters toward them. But, Graham, I think, is a terrific actor, and I thought it'd be interesting to see him in somewhat of a different role than what he's done in, the Joe Begos films and, some of these other things where he's a little more wound up and uptight and kind of straight-laced in this. And I think in Joe's movies, we're used to just seeing him screaming and covered in blood and exploding people's heads. So it's, a bit of a different film, but I hope people enjoy.
And what's next for you? More horror?
I have a project with Blumhouse that is shooting pretty soon. It's called 12 Deadly Days. I wrote an episode of that, and it was created by Chris Kalari and Jennifer Raitt, and it should be out by the end of the year. And I have a sequel to Beyond the Gates, which we're starting to put together, and then another one called The Day After Halloween. That's a vehicle for Bria Grant, so it should be fun.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for talking to us.
Thank you.